Hello. Hello, Earthlings. This is another transition from Lisa to infinity and beyond. Boop, boop. Yappy, dabby. Hello, good evening, participants of this talk. What the talk is named today is called Elite Emptiness. I know that might be quite surprising to few that there's something called elite emptiness, but there is. There is emptiness and then there's elite emptiness, which is far superior. So there we go. Now you know. I just forgot to share this on Facebook. So how are you all this evening? What have you been up to this weekend? I had a very exciting weekend full of lots of adventure, but I won't bore you with the details now. Khaleesi rolled in poop this afternoon. That was the highlight of her weekend. It was either poop or dead animal. We still haven't worked it out. And to her, she feels like she's got Gucci on. To us, it's quite horrific. Okay. So we are ready. Everything is in place and we're ready, to tango. Sort of. I kind of shut down my dashboard by accident. Just let me open it. YouTube, I'm sure you know this from my last videos. If you watched the last videos, YouTube has changed their live streaming suite. And it's a little confusing. Okay, we are ready to rumble through the jungle. We are ready to rumble through the jungle, or the jumble. So tonight we're going to be talking about elite emptiness. Let's just be clear, I didn't name it that title because I couldn't think of anything else. I named it that title because there is such a thing as elite emptiness, and if you want to know what it is, you have to carry on watching this video and do the meditation. Boop, 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 boop. So I will be telling you what elite emptiness is after the meditation and the silent sitting. I know for some people that's unbearable, but now you're forced into it because you're eager to know what elite emptiness is. Suddenly there is activity. You're like, oh yeah, non-duality, yeah, there is nothing, and emptiness, and there is nobody. Elite emptiness? There's elite emptiness? It was all kind of plain sailing and a bit boring, and then you got the idea of elite emptiness. Okay, I just do 5-10 minutes meditation. And in this meditation, just bring yourself repetitively back to the I am. So the mind drifts off into thinking about itself, its problems, people it likes or doesn't like, what it can get, what it's going to have for dinner, sex, masturbation, pornography, the weather, politics, the government, your job. So when it wanders off into those things, just pull it back to the I am. Pull it back to what's actually happening. So with the in-breath, you go, I am, and you just fill your body with all that light and love of who you truly are. And know that everything you do, if you do that or don't do that, it's got nothing to do with emptiness and who you are. It's the same as watching your dogs have sex. Makes no difference. It's no higher, no lower, no anything. It's same, but different. Watching your dogs have sex. Watching the bumblebees. Watching the tree fall down. Watching the sky turn pink. Watching somebody pull a moonie at a protest. Going to the toilet. Walking across the floor. Going to the moon. Becoming an astronaut. Sitting behind your desk. Working. Falling over. Having a car crash. Making friends. Jumping over a tree. Or a bush. Meeting the love of your life. Let's just be clear that this meditation means exactly the same as that. None of it can get you more or less to emptiness and who you truly are. But anyway, we still do it. Because it's the next best thing to make the person more settled. So, okay, my microphone is working. So there's nothing you can do to arrive at what you are, to this elite emptiness. There's nothing you can do to get there, because this you that you believe you are doesn't exist. There isn't a solid person inside the body that's one day going to arrive and be like, I'm an emptiness, I made it. Because who's that person going to be? Who? I know it sounds like words, I've said this so many times before, but there's nobody inside your bodies looking out. There's nobody interacting in this world. There's nobody having a life. There's nobody sitting here listening to me. There is simply life happening for no one. So even though you're listening to me and the little mind is like, what she's saying is that I can't arrive there. That means it's hopeless. There's nothing for me to do. Life is hopeless. I'm stuck here forever in eternity and I'm never going to make it. Even though that voice is going off in your head, that's not who you are. That's simply a voice appearing. It's chemical reactions happening, giving the appearance that somebody's speaking to you. And your consciousness and that voice are so close together, you think that they're one and the same thing. You think that the experiencer in that little voice is like is somebody, and it's with the consciousness and this little voice, and then all these feelings that are happening in the body, and then you believe that you are someone, whereas actually your seeing now is coming from nowhere. You're speaking now. If you're speaking, you're like speaking back to me. Maybe you're speaking to your relative or something. Whatever is happening, it's not you doing it. There isn't somebody that is alive in there doing that. There is only life happening for no one. It's totally empty. And you can run around the mountain millions of times. You can meditate. You can do everything that you think that will get you to this emptiness. But still, you're always been in this emptiness, and you always are this emptiness and appearing out of this emptiness. You've never been separate from it. You can't arrive at it because you are it, and there is nobody there that is it. I don't know if that makes sense. Most probably not. There is nobody. You aren't going to arrive at this. Ever. Because you don't exist, firstly. And then secondly, you already are it. And what is fooling you is this mind that's like having a commentary in your brain, producing feelings in your body. Those are taken to be who you are, and then that you is always looking to improve the feelings in its body by external reality, or the apparent external reality, by getting this, getting a new house, getting this, getting that. So this you is always striving to get all these things. So I know the mind is like, what's the point listening to non-duality? Because that's what the mind's always about. It's always about what it can get. It's the only way it can think is, what can I possibly get from this situation? So when I'm listening to Lisa, I'm here because I want to become enlightened, or I want to become free. Whereas that's the story you tell yourself, and there isn't a solid you that can become free. You've only got this moment, and it's happening beyond you. This person is always insistent, I must get something, I have to get something. This has to be for a reason. It's got to be for getting me more peace, or getting me here, or getting me there. And that's what it appears. So it appears that this person, this voice inside your head has choice. So if I gave you a choice between a cucumber and an orange, it would appear like you had a choice. It would appear like you could be like, oh, I would like an orange. That taste is most tasty. And that feels like you have free will. So it feels like you can choose between listening to me and listening to another speaker, or going and practicing yoga, or giving up entirely. It feels like you have a choice. And Ramesh always used to say that's really important, the appearance of choice, because it makes you feel free. Otherwise, you'd just feel like a robot. You'd feel trapped. But it's not actually a free choice, because that choice is predestined. So you pick the orange because you're human, because you've got particular makeup, because it reacted in a certain way with your mouth when you last ate the last orange, and you either liked it or didn't. And the like is genetic. If you were a cow, more than likely you wouldn't like an orange. Maybe they do, cows. But Khaleesi wouldn't like an orange, my dog. So that's like a genetic predisposition that you're open to liking them. And then the fact that you do is all down to chemicals. And then you say, I chose and I like it. Whereas actually there is nobody that chooses. There's the appearance of choice. And it's important. Like it gives you the feeling like that you can choose to listen to non-duality. And that has relevance. But that doesn't mean that that person is going to get to non-duality. It means that the non-dual story is playing out in that character. It doesn't mean that that character is going to arrive at non-duality because it practices it. It means that there is a balancing out of the character, there's a letting going of ideas, there's a relaxing of the body. But it doesn't mean you're going to get to non-duality, because nobody could get to non-duality. Who would be this person that would get to non-duality? But it's happening. And it doesn't mean that you have to like jump off the bandwagon and be like, well, because I can't choose, I might as well lay on the sofa all day and do nothing. Fuck this, I can't choose, then I'm going to do nothing. What does she mean there is no choice? Then it means life is pointless and meaningless and hopeless. And that's really not what's being said, but that's the way that the little voice inside your head is interpreting it. Not everybody, but a lot of people interpret it like that. What's the point if I have no choice? If I can't choose, if I can't arrive at enlightenment? What's the point of doing anything? And it's the same as it was before. It's just that you're a bit more informed and reflective on this thing we call life, and seeing that, it makes sense, complete sense, that there is no separate chooser inside this body. It's just an appearance happening. Like, how could we have choice? We're already programmed a certain way. So how could it be our choice? And then it brings up the whole, problem of good and bad. And then that's always very difficult, because we have so many people we blame in this world, particularly ourselves. So if we really begin to comprehend the idea of no choice, we're then like, who are we going to blame? Can't blame the politicians, can't blame the weather, can't blame the neighbour, can't blame Lisa, can't blame myself. If there is no choice, then it's nobody's fault. Bingo! It is nobody's fault. It's like the best forgiveness program. It doesn't mean that you let in the devil. Like, it doesn't mean that you're then like, well, it's nobody's fault. Oh, hello, Mr. Devil. Yes, please come in and take all my money. Oh, hello, Mrs. Devil. Please come in and suck me clean of all my money. It seems to all be about money. Couldn't think of what to say then. It doesn't mean that suck me clean of all my energy. There we go. It doesn't mean that you welcome your door to everyone. Like, on the human level, there's still like, no. Like, if you saw a tarantula, you'd be like, no. If you see a human that's like got a vacuum after your energy, like, It doesn't mean you have to be like, oh yes, there is no choice. Please come take me. Take my energy. Take all my goodness. You can be like, out, just like you can with a scorpion. But it is nobody's choice. That's just a programming. Like information has gone in that narcissists or these types of people do that, and it's not good for me. And it feels like you're choosing, but it's actually a programming of the system. Like new data has gone in. Boop, 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 boop. Narcissists, stay out. Outside, in the rain. Please, please, miss. I have no food. I don't care. Out in the rain. Narcissist, out. So you can do that. But that doesn't imply choice. And it doesn't mean that you can blame anyone. So whoever you're sitting there in the bandwagon to, whether it be yourself or the other, blah, 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 blah. That's just a story playing in your head, and it doesn't bear any truth to reality, and it more than likely exhausts you anyway. But having said that, you don't have any choice as to whether that plays or not. But also, if you had a cut in your leg and it was bleeding, you could put a bandage on it. If you're having repetitive thoughts, then you can listen to a non-duality talk. It might calm you down. You could do meditation. You can do this, you can do that. But at the same time, it either happens or it doesn't, that you do that, because it's nobody's choice and nobody's free will. I know this is one big contradiction after another, but there you go. That's what you get when you talk about non-duality. There is no light, there is no dark, there is no good, there is no bad, there is light, there is dark, there is good, there is bad. There isn't any nothing, there isn't everything, there is everything, there is nothing. So what does this mean for you? Sitting there, you're like, oh yeah. What does it mean for you? Nothing. Because you don't exist. There's only this. Nothing. 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 You just think about yourself, and you have this image of yourself, and it's not true. It's not who you are. You are this. This is it, baby. This is it. And that's the suffering. The suffering is the belief in you. The belief that there is somebody there that can do something, and that you've got to be something. You've got to get pleasure and get away from pain. You have to be something. You don't have to be anything. Who is this you that has to be something? And that's the game, the constant running in the hamster wheel. Pleasure, pain, get pleasure, away from pain, pleasure, get away from pain. Whereas life is circular. You get half pleasure, you get half pain. It's good, it's bad, it's ugly, it's beautiful. And then the ultimate reality, it's not any of that. It's just a kaleidoscope of every possibility happening. And consciousness, who you are, the experiencer, nothing, or emptiness, whatever you like to call it. Like you could see consciousness as like a vessel to that emptiness that you are, the watcher, the knower of what's happening. This doesn't care. It's not got any perspective. It doesn't care if it's watching a murderer or a saint, or the Democrats or the Republicans or the Labour or the Conservative. I don't know other parties in other countries. It doesn't care. It couldn't care less. Couldn't care less whether you pick your nose when no one's looking, whether you flick it or eat it, whether you fart all day long, whether you are helping people all day long. Consciousness couldn't care. You don't get any points for being good. I know that's contradictory to Christianity, because Christianity is all like, if you do good, you go into heaven. If you do bad, you go into hell. So our mind, our setup is to think that good people will get enlightened. And I can tell you that's not the way. It doesn't matter if you're a good person. You can be a bad person and become free. more than likely that will change the body-mind, and that body-mind will have no interest in doing harm to others. But if it's been conditioned to be a thief, maybe it carries on being a thief. Or an alcoholic. I don't know if you've done lots of spirituality, there is like, I've meditated for 20 years, I'm more observing of it, I should be closer, but it's not the way. This is all story, this is all mind, imagination. Who would be closer? All you have is this moment, is what's happening. Who would be closer? It's impossible for anything to be closer. There's only what's happening. There's nothing that's yours. You might think that you're sitting there hearing me and listening to me because of you, but you're not. There's hearing and listening happening, and there's a commentary, somebody popping up and being like, I'm listening to Lisa, da-da-da-da-da, and telling a story about it. But you actually aren't. It's happening. It's on automatic. It's appearing. This is deeply relaxing when it's heard, and it's the end of suffering. That life isn't yours. Life becomes so stressful when you're so attached to the person, like I'm identified with the person. Pardon me. Are we still playing? Yes. We are still playing with volume. Okay, maybe we take questions now. Can't think of anything else to say. Where is it that I have Skype? Oh yeah. Applications. Skype. Hello. Hello. Picuto. Lisa, I was going to show this to my sister to convert her to our cult, but she won't be able to watch today. I'm so excited for these streams. Okay, back to YouTube now, on mobile. I have to choose between Skype or YouTube. Yeah. Well, there's lots of people saying hello. Hello, Isabel. Hello, Rob. Hi, Lisa. Love your talks. So wonderful how you address everything and nothing altogether. I was being such a dick as a human when being nothing. That's to myself and to everyone else. If you know what I mean. Yeah. With your lovely kids, with 4 lovely kids and humans all around, it was never going to work for me. What a relief. Relaxing the character is so supportive for emptiness. It's so cool to have tripped over you on YouTube. I don't think I would have found you had I searched under funky white woman with dog talking about non-duality. I don't know if I would have come up under that. Maybe dog and non-duality. Observation that may be of interest to others. I often listen to Lisa while I'm doing a breathing exercise, which drops a lot of mental noise, that I can just be with the conversation instead of trying to get it. Oh, nice, Rob. Yeah, nice to hear from you. I wonder how it went with your daughter. You're welcome to update me. I won't read it out. Hello, Simin. Hello, dear. Happy to see you, be with you again. Oleg. Hi, Oleg. Nice to see you. Hi, Nick. Bonsoir, Nick. Beautiful picture, by the way, of the clock girl. I mean, amazing, isn't it? Is that photoshopped? It must be. I don't know. Lisa, what a scam, this title. Thank you for the talk. While I meditate, I feel this energetic agitation. You had exposed this pleasure-pain dynamic a few weeks ago. I'm wondering if this agitation is coming from this dynamic. Yeah. So this might sound like I've said it before, but when I say it today, it's totally fresh, and to me it's like it's brand new, coming out of nowhere. But so what happens is, let me be frank and tell you what happens. What happens is life creates these body minds, and it's done it through millions and millions of years of evolution, but at the same time that evolution's never happened, and the only thing that's ever happened is what's happening now, which is really quite mind-boggling. But it seems to have evolved these body-mind mechanisms through this massive evolution process, and at some point evolution dictated that humans become self-aware. Now, in our history books, it goes back to Eve. I'm not sure about other religions, but in Christian history books, it goes back to Eve eating an apple of knowledge. So she was in the Garden of Eden, just with all the other animals and nature. I don't know if you can picture it. And it was like heaven and orgasmic, and everyone was happy. There was no wars or violence. It was very beautiful. And then Eve ate the apple of knowledge. A snake came down and told her to eat the apple of knowledge. And so she was like, and God had said to her, don't eat those apples, eat all other apples, but not the apple of knowledge. And as soon as she ate the apple, she became aware that she was naked. She became aware of her nakedness, and she instantly was ashamed. And then through being ashamed, she got kicked out of Eden. I think she got Adam to eat the apple as well. Originally it was women that eat evil, but then 200 years ago, men became the evil in society. The big bad man, patriarchy. So that's the story that appears, that we know in our society. And that's the story of identification. And the way that identification formed, believe it or not, is like it tells you in the story, it forms through the intellect, so through thinking. So to me, when I listen to that story, which I assume is a metaphor, although it might be that we just got our knowledge from apples, we never know. It could have been like alien apples that came down and were placed there and we ate them and suddenly, woo! But more than likely, the way that it evolved through our evolutionist humanity is through language. So we became self-aware through using words. So once we descended from the trees, being apes, and we descended onto the plains, our survival was a lot harder than being in the trees. We had to begin to think of things in order to survive. We had to think of shelter and warmth and protection and to hunt enemies. And in that, we began to communicate. And it's through that communication that identification happened. So through speaking. So at first it would have just been sounds, which meant things. And then eventually there would have been the sound for I and a sound for you. And through that definition, we began to feel like an I. So from people keep telling us that we're an I, we began to feel like it. But it's completely imagined. It's all imaginary. It's not true that there is an I here. But what it does is when you repeat this story of I, is it gives you this energetic sensation and experience of being in the body. And then suddenly all your emotions and feelings feel like they're inside the body. Whereas before, when you had emotions and when you had feelings and ideas, they arose everywhere. So your images in your brain arose everywhere, your feelings arose everywhere, because you didn't know inside and outside. And it really is an energetic contraction that's formed by thinking, this feeling of being inside the body, that you are someone inside here. It's not truth. Life is looking from this angle, but there isn't a soul inside this body, and it really makes it feel like you are inside, and that's not the case. Once you feel like you're inside, you feel like there is something wrong, because there is. It's not truth. It's not what it was like when you were an animal, when you were a chimpanzee, or when you were a goat or a dog, which you were, because this is all a dream of one. What it feels like as a human is it feels like there's something not quite right, which is true. It isn't quite right being separate, because it's a lie, and it feels uncomfortable. What's happened over the years is this I has got stronger, and we've invested more and more time in it, and to the point where we can't separate out consciousness and self. So this consciousness, this empty looking, and this I like this, I don't like this, and this voice in the head. And so what we really believe is that there is a conscious soul inside our body, and we're constantly telling the story of us. And then from always telling the story of us, we have repetitive feelings that are arising in our body. So if you tell yourself again and again that you're worthless, then you have a feeling in one of your chakras, like I've described in other talks. You'll get particular feelings in particular areas of the body. So if you were brought up being told that you're worthless and that you're hopeless, you'll have that feeling being in your heart, more than likely in your solar plexus. And then what will happen is the identification, the person will try to fix that. It will feel pain from feeling worthless, and it will try to fix that. And in doing that, it solidifies it, it makes it part of you. So for like Khaleesi, say my dog, she still has reactions to things. So she has a little feeling of being superior to a lot of living beings, I think. Or not superiority, but she feels very strong, I think. Especially around Western dogs. Like it's a smell thing, and they just know. And because she's from the streets, I think she just has this feeling of being quite strong. And so because she repeats that repetitively when she meets other dogs, it becomes a habit in her body. But when she's not looking at the dog or in that situation, she forgets about it, and the habit isn't arising in the body. But then as soon as she goes up to that dog, it appears again, it becomes a habit. What happens with the human when it has these feelings, so say if you have parents that keep telling you you're worthless, what happens is that you can see that feeling, so you see this feeling of worthlessness, you're not really conscious of it, but you feel this feeling and you don't want to experience it. So the person, the voice in your head, doesn't want to experience that pain. So it starts making up stories and doing things in order to get away from that pain. So if you feel worthless, then maybe you spend your whole life trying to find worthy. Whereas for Khaleesi, she doesn't do that. She feels superior to other dogs. She doesn't dedicate her life to being superior to other dogs. Whereas somebody like certain prime ministers or something, or leaders of society, they might have grown up with superiority complex and really believe that there's something special, and then spend their whole life trying to prove that. Whereas Khaleesi, it just appears in the moment and then disappears in that moment as well. But the human holds on to it, and it makes an identity. And then what it does is it keeps repeating it day and night, year after year, year after year. And then it becomes these strong feelings in your body. And then it's kind of out of control. So you're feeling these uncomfortable feelings all the time. And the reason that it sticks and creates this identity is really ironic. It's because you're trying to avoid the feelings in the first place. So you feel unworthy about something and you're trying to avoid that. So then you look to be worthy for something. rather than just being unworthy in that moment and just experiencing it and letting it pass through and just seeing the kaleidoscope of this life, that it changes from good to bad to good to bad, rather than just having that experience, there is this person that attaches to the experience and tries to maintain it. So your agitation is more than likely there is a seeing through of the mental activity that's happening. So you see through that the stories of being hopeless or being failure or something. We're just using this as an example. I'm not saying that's what you feel. So the mental activity has maybe decreased, but you still have the feelings in the body. And the reason you have them is because of habit, a repetition. So there is this discomfort that's appearing. And then I've given many descriptions about how you can release that in your body. There's so many different ways. Like the body contains it. You begin to hold your story in your body, and people don't give that enough credence. Like massaging the body, doing yoga, doing all these different things, breathing exercises to try and get that energy out of the body. But I'm not implying in any way that by doing that you're going to get closer to liberation. By doing that you're going to settle down the person. And that seems to be a precursor to this shift, but it's not about that. Like, you aren't going to get to liberation. You aren't going to get to freedom through doing that. So this story, like, I've got to do all these things to get somewhere, is redundant. It's untrue. Like, your freedom is here, right here, but the body is uncomfortable because of years and years and lifetimes after lifetimes of participation in a false dream. It's not true. It's not true, baby. Oh, sorry, maybe that was inappropriate, Jordan. I don't mean to be leading you on by calling you a baby. I just got carried away, like I say. This is it, baby. Hi, Wesley. Pull a full moony, lay low. I have never heard that expression. Hope you're away. Oh well. Do they not have that pull a full moony in America? Pull a moony. There used to be a moony character on Skype. I forgot about that. Let's see if they still have it. It was really funny. No. Moony. They do! It's like a hidden one. The message never gets old. Every time I hear there is nobody in the body, there is no me, it resonates with what I am and brings me smiling into deeper joy. Thanks for sharing every week. With pleasure, Wesley. Hi, Praveen. Hi, Lisa. You said there is no one here, but something is different between you and me. Who is it that is free in you, and why don't I feel free? There is nobody that's free in me. It's just happening. It's an illusion. It's an idea, this freedom and no freedom. And it's an idea that there is somebody in here called Lisa who is free and not free. So it's an idea that I exist. It's an idea that you exist. And now you're personifying me. You personify yourself and then me. And then you're like, she is free or she isn't free. Who? The character. So there's a character Lisa in this body, but the character Lisa isn't free. She is bound by her conditions, and she comes and goes like a kaleidoscope of colours, but always in the same kaleidoscope of Lisa. But she's not me. She's not who's speaking now. She's not who's looking now. She's not who's hearing now. She's an appearance coming. Suddenly feel sick, like a bleh. It's not you, Praveen. It's because I've got a combination of period and some pooing issue. And I think I might have to go and present myself to the toilet in a bit. This happens to a lady sometimes. Don't worry, I don't need advice about the pooing thing. It just happens when women get periods. They know it, or the women are like, oh yeah, it's a disaster when that happens, first day of period. It's like a curse for a woman. You get the pooing and the period thing at the same time. You're like, ooh. It just came on strong. But it might have just been gas that passes. Just take a moment. Yeah, so that was my answer, Praveen. Thank you. Hello, Enjoy. Hello, Kevin. Martin, welcome. Hi, Lisa. Would like to ask a question. Should I write or call? Whichever you like, Martin. Very welcome to call or to write. Hello, Dominique. Bonjour, Dominique. I presume you are French. Hi, Bradley. So nice to hear from you, Bradley. How are you doing? What have you been up to? Hi, Joanna. Yes, you can ask a question, Joanna. Very free to. You're welcome to call in or to write, but now Kevin is calling in. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, what's up, Lisa?
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, good, thanks. I'm sorry, I can't put my video on because of the internet. Could you just switch your video off so it makes my internet... I haven't got great internet here.
All right. So wait. All right, perfect.
Good. Are you French?
No, actually, I was born in Italy.
Oh, in Italy, okay.
That's why.
I thought you sounded French.
Yeah, I do sound French, but I don't know French.
Yeah, same here. I live in France, don't know French. It's a very complicated language.
Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah.
How can I help you today, Kevin?
Yeah, so I know you on YouTube since 1 week.
Yeah? Oh, well, not long. I thought you were just about to say like 5 years, but 1 week.
No. 1
We're not running with a long time here.
But I do watch, listened to a lot of your content on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I'm a coach. I help people going through the emotional healing journey, right?
Nice.
And I discovered the non-duality, I think. I mean, I always knew about it, but I went in depth, so like 1 month ago.
Okay.
And so I started to learn. I'm watching your content because you have a really nice transmission. Like, it's very natural. You really go with the flow. And yeah, I was just curious to know if you could share your secrets about how are you able to stay in the flow like you do, and just transmit all of these different things. I mean, how much of it is knowledge, things that you studied, and how much of this is just coming from the now?
Well, that's a complex question.
Yeah.
Everything's coming from the now. Like, so really, like my speaking, my looking, everything is coming from the now. But I don't speak Japanese, I don't speak French, I don't speak Italian, so it comes through Lisa with her current conditioning and knowledge. So it comes through with the Lisa flavor to it. So if I had never studied non-duality in the way that I had in the past, I'm sure I wouldn't speak about it the way I speak about it. It would have a different flavor. So all the teachers that I've been with and met have had an influence on the way that this is spoken about now. But then at the same time, it's being spoken about from now. So even though this knowledge seems to have come from the past, it's almost like that past is here and present. So on the true answer, the ultimate answer is that everything comes from the now. You never can have anything that comes from the past or the future. So but it appears in apparent cause and effect. I remember when my teacher first explained this to me, and I remember it being a real light bulb moment, but it might not be for you. We all work differently. Is that he explained it to me in the image of an old-fashioned film. You know those films where they used to have it on a roll and thousands of pictures used to go through a light, and that gave the film on the screen. I don't think they project it like that anymore. I think it's all digital. I don't know how they do it, but in the olden days, it used to be loads of pictures all put together, running really quickly, giving the appearance of a film on the screen. So in actuality, it was still shots that never moved, like they were pictures. And then those pictures moved at a rapid speed, and it gave the appearance of a whole world happening on the screen. So it gave the appearance that there was all this movement and life happening. And that's what it's always like now. There is this emptiness, this stillness, this silence, this consciousness that's experiencing. And then there's all these pictures rapidly put together, giving the appearance of a whole life out there that's happening. So it gives the appearance of all this past that's happened, and it's running through this moment, this light, this stillness of who you are. So what we think, so you can't see this, but people at home can see this, is I'm moving my hand quickly, or not quickly, slowly actually, but I'm moving my hand. And we think that we're actually seeing a hand moving, but actually we're never actually seeing anything but the moment of what we're seeing, and then everything else is memory. So if my hand is flat, and if I move it from upwards to downwards, we think that we're seeing that movement, but actually we're only ever seeing stillness. We're seeing this instant now with the memory of what has happened. It's really amazing and spectacular. Your nature is still. Your nature is never moved. Your nature is this still watching, and then in that there's all this appearance of movement. Just like a kaleidoscope, when you watch a kaleidoscope, like you've got all these shapes appearing out of something. Like really it's like 3 or 4 or 5 different colors in there, giving the appearance of a whole world of all these patterns. And that's what's happening for everyone right now. But for some people, there is more or less identification. When you're really identified, you're really suffering. And when you're less identified, there is less suffering. When you're totally not identified, you're more than likely dead or detached from the body, or having some form of psychosis or oneness experience. You can't be totally disidentified with the body. You can have those experiences, but there needs to be some form of identification with the body, otherwise you just end up in a madhouse. You can't move, you can't function, because your absolute nature is stillness. Your absolute nature is this consciousness that doesn't have a mind, doesn't have thoughts, doesn't know anything. It just is watching. It's just experiencing itself.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then that consciousness, it's not consciously creating this, so it's not in there thinking about creating this, but it creates this person that feels like it's real and feels like it's really existing here. So the other question you asked me is, what do I do to stay present? And really it's got nothing to do with Lisa. To me, Lisa is a character that's appearing in the dream, and she comes and goes and is always changing. But she's like the wind, she's like the sunlight, but she's more of a constant than the sunlight or the wind or everything else. But she's not the experiencer, she's not who I am, and I'm not limited to her. Before, there was like this energetic shift. Before, when there was total identification with her, Like I felt like my consciousness and her, the character, were one and the same thing, and I couldn't see the difference. And then these awakening experiences happening and listening to non-duality and this sort of detachment from that happened, and it was seeing, but not Lisa seeing, it was seeing beyond Lisa that that my essence is always still and always present and nothing to do with the form. So I don't maintain it in any way. And I still work on the character, so I still have dysfunction in my character, I still have neurosis or difficulties or even dramas. Not so many dramas, life is quite undramatic at the moment. The biggest drama I had in the last couple of days was my car failed its MOT, or control technique we call it in France, but that's not a big drama.
Yeah.
So we like there's the like, so she still has her drama, but it's that's like just something that's happening. It's like just like the wind, it's just like the breeze. It's like, yeah, Lisa can be messed up sometimes, and Lisa can, I'm talking about in the third person, like I can say I as well. I can be messed up sometimes, and I need to do work on myself or get a bigger perspective on life. But that's not the freedom, that's always changing. And I think it's beautiful work. I always recommend everyone to work on themselves. But that's not the experience. So that is an experience. And the idea that that person is going to arrive at enlightenment and become enlightened keeps you inside the dream, or perpetuates the dream that you'll one day become enlightened through your efforts. Whose efforts? There is nobody that has efforts. There is nobody but this moment. And most people, when they get into this subject and they do a lot of personal work and self-help, and I think it's really advisable because normally once there's been identification for a long period of time, there can become a lot of suffering in that person and a lot of density, and they're really identified with it. And working through patterns and understanding things can relax that, but that person never makes it.
Yeah. But so who is the one that is identified with it? I mean, if we are consciousness, what is that is identified with the conditioned?
With the personality. Like with the personality structure, you mean, or the conditions?
Yeah, with the personality structure. As an example, you say that there is a strong identification.
Yeah.
But who is the one that is identified, right? That's
to me, it's like it's just an energy. The identification is like a sticky energy, like like Velcro or glue or something. But there isn't a who that is identified. It's just an energy which is holding on to that person. It's just something that seems to form in humanity, but it's completely impersonal. It's just like a zooming in on a particular area of the dream, and then this belief, but it's not belonging to anyone, or it's this dynamic that makes consciousness, so the looking and that personality, one and the same thing, where it's not one and the same thing. The personality is an experience that comes and goes. So it's completely impersonal. Identification is nothing to, it's nobody's doing, it's nobody's fault. It's a happening. It's part of the human condition. It happens to most people, I think. And there needs to be a certain amount of identification to work in this society. If you didn't have some identification, you really would be insane or absolute idiot. Maybe that's rude what I said, an absolute idiot, but I mean like you wouldn't be able to do anything. You wouldn't be able to write your name or like you wouldn't even know what paper or pen was. You'd just be like
Yeah, I actually call them programs, so these are programs that we have to clear out, all right? So, so I really like non-duality because for all the things that I tried, it seems like the thing that go directly to the end, so we start from the end here. And it's something very powerful in my own work, because now I have like the consciousness that I'm already here, there is no a journey that I need to do.
Yeah.
So I was like working for a long time with the letting go approach,
Yeah.
but in unconscious way, I was believing that I had to let go
Yeah,
and then
exactly. Yeah.
get to some point. Now I still do the same letting go approach. Like I still listen to the sensation.
Yeah.
I'm still present with them, but I start with the assumption that I'm already arrived, and
Yeah.
now I just have to clear out the illusion from this
Yeah.
place of being.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's getting way more powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an important distinction, because there's nothing wrong with, like, that seems to go hand in hand, is that the person surrenders more and more to itself, but then there comes a point when it's realized that the one that's surrendering or trying to surrender is part of the dream. And sometimes the person, we have a saying in England, like throwing the bath water out with the baby, like the baby out with the bath water. I got it wrong then. So it's like throwing out too much. So some people get into non-duality and then they think, I've got to stop all spiritual work, or I can't do this anymore because it's illusion. But the person's always going to do something, and it seems like the person becomes more relaxed and contented in itself when it's not resisting life. It becomes more balanced and in flow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you very much, Lisa. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
with pleasure. Lovely speaking with you. There's a lady that teaches in Italy. I used to go and do talks at her place. Really lovely lady called, she's really popular now, called Shakti. I don't know if you've heard of her.
Shakti.
Yeah, she speaks
I'm
in Italian.
gonna.
Caterina
Okay.
I've forgotten her name. She speaks in English and Italian, and she lives in Milan,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that's where I'm from, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So her name's Shakti, but that's her spiritual name. I don't know what her
Yeah, I'm gonna
her
look for
name.
her. Yeah, yeah.
I've forgotten her name for for some reason.
All right.
So nice, lovely to speak to you. Thanks for calling.
I appreciate you. Keep it up. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Linda. Hi, Lisa. You said that in life it's always changing from good things to bad things, happiness, difficulties. But for me, it's like my life is a nightmare, no good things at all. Yeah. That might be the current perspective. I'm not sure if that's true. Like sometimes when we're in a bad mood, like another thing when I was with my teacher, I remember this one time I was sitting in a flower bed doing the gardening with him, and he said, and I said, you don't understand what it's like to suffer. Like you don't understand. I always suffer. My life is always so difficult. I was 27 at the time, or 26. I'm saying, my life is so difficult. I've suffered so much. And he said, but you only feel like this now. It's just a thought arising now. When you're in a good mood again, this will be complete nonsense. No, it won't. I always suffer. And then when I was in a good mood again, I was like, he reminded me of what I said. And I was like, oh yeah. So I don't know if that's totally true or if that's just a feeling coming up now. Like if you're always are suffering or not. From my experience, that came up when I was in a bad mood, and there was actually many times during the day where there was like happiness or joy or contentment. But say if that were the case, that you got all the pain and you were not having any good things or experiencing any good things, that's to the kaleidoscope that's happening currently at the moment, is that live is having more negative experiences than positive experiences. But I'm sorry, I have to go to the toilet now. I thought I'd have to present myself. I wouldn't make it through the talk. I will be back. I am back. I didn't just explode on the toilet or disappear down the bowl. I'm back. You see, there's always things to celebrate in this life. We forget, we always look at things so negatively, but the fact that you just don't explode randomly, which could be something that happens. I'm still here. Something to celebrate. So, sorry, back to leave your question about, so even if you're having a bad dream, like that's the kaleidoscope that's happening now. And on the ultimate level, consciousness is totally in love with that dream and holds all of it in its arms, like, and supports it and loves it. On the human level, there's many things that you can do to improve the dream. Like I talk about it often with the chakras and getting to know the chakra breathing exercises. You can go to the doctors and the doctors can give you medication. I'm not a big fan of medicating, but at the same time, I do think that they can be helpful at points in people's lives, and some people, need that, and it helps, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm certainly not against it. You get some spiritual people that are really against it. Sometimes people have an area in their brain which isn't functioning, and medication can really help that. Yeah, thank you for your question, Leave. And if you've got a particular area and you want me to work through that's something that's really difficult for you, I can show you again. I often do that in talks. I show people how to go into the chakras and put it into the positive. Derek. Hello, Derek. What a wonderful name, Derek. I like that name. So I have all these different buttons sometimes and get lost as to where I am. Hello, Lisa. I have absolutely nothing to say today. Yay! It was the knowledge of good and evil, the duality. Oh, right, it's the knowledge of good and evil in the Adam and Eve story. That's really cool, that picture. Atul. Hi, Atul. Hi, Lisa. How you see law of attraction with no free will? Because law of attraction seems free will and choice. Thanks, Atul. Love. I like your picture, Atul. Oh yeah, it's Om with a flower for love. Well, they're really going for it there. You got love, you got Om, and you got a rose. You got everything. I just finished this question before I take any more calls. So, law of attraction. So, we are robots, like, I know we've only invented the word robot in the last 100 years, but it's a really good word for describing what we are. And it's not just us, the birds, the bees, the grass, the trees, everything is programmed. It's not like somebody has been sitting there, like God's like writing in all our codes. It's that we're all like this perfect instrument that has got particular information running through it, and we're set up to be particular ways. So say if you have a program running of somebody that has the story that feels like they're not afraid of money and that they deserve money, not in a negative, selfish way, but just like they love money in a beautiful way and their heart vibrates around it, more than likely that is what's going to appear in the dream. It's that money will appear for them. The more that they fear and hate money in the dream, and they're scared of it, the more that dream will appear, that money will not appear for that character. It's just the way it is. Like, things work in apparent cause and effect. And if you've got a dream that's happening where someone's always afraid of money, then more than likely they're always going to have fiction with it. If you've got somebody that loves it in a beautiful way, not in an attached way, then more than likely it will just be abundant, or it won't even be a problem. It might not even be that you've got abundance of money. It just will not be a problem or a hindrance. If you've got somebody that always feels like a victim, then what's going to appear in their dream is always the perpetrator. It's just the way it is. Like, if you've got someone that's a victim, it's not like, how could they be a victim if what's always appearing is like beauty and no perpetrator? They have to have the appearance of the perpetrator. But it's like this dream that appears in apparent cause and effect. And it's nobody's doing. In Law of Attraction, they always teach you to recondition yourself, which is really beautiful. Sorry, I'm just having these hormonal moments every time I'm going silent. So they teach you to recondition it, but that's just like teaching to bake a cake. I mean, it's something that happens or doesn't if you can recondition it and see money as your friend rather than see it as the enemy. But that's part of the dream, and that appears in apparent cause and effect. And then if you recondition it, more than likely money will flow a lot easier for you. But it's not somebody's dream. It's not somebody that's doing that. It's not somebody that is controlling that. It's happening. It's appearing. Just like if you go up to a cookie store and you have to choose between chocolate chip cookie or rum and raisin cookie. It looks like you've got the appearance of choice as to whether you can do it or not. It's the same with all this reconditioning. You don't need to be afraid of the appearance of choice. That's what human comes with, is the appearance of choosing. But it doesn't mean there is actually choice, because you couldn't ever choose anything other than what you chose. So say with Khaleesi, she has no idea about the concept of choice. Khaleesi is my dog, if you've never watched before. She doesn't know what choice is, or that we talk about choice, or what free will is. She doesn't know who she is. She just is. And say if I gave her the choice between a carrot or a chicken, like, all of us can bet that she's going to pick the chicken. Like, if I gave her a chicken leg and a carrot, she'd be like, yeah, I'll take the chicken instantly. And then we call that she chose, but she didn't actually choose. She never chose to be a chicken eater. It's what's in her DNA. It's what's in her impulses. It's the way that she was written. It's the way that all dogs are written. They love chicken. If you've got a dog, they love it. That's like them. They do actually like carrots as well. Khaleesi will often take a carrot, but not over a chicken. I mean, she'll take the carrot when there's nothing else. And she also takes a carrot if she's had too much meat, but if I still presented her with chicken or carrot, she'd still pick the chicken. Thanks for your question. Hi, Thomas. Happy Sunday to you. Hi, Jordan. I don't feel I get freedom by releasing energy. I feel it will happen or not. Thank you for your nice answer. Or maybe it is not conscious. Okay. It's okay. The toilet is enlightenment. Hee hee. Dominique. No, I'm Swiss. Are you French speaking Swiss? Have we met before, Dominique? Do I know you? You haven't got a picture. Lola. Hey, Lola. Hi, Lisa. This seems to be the deepest longing as well as threat to the lack, drama, not enough identification. To call in, would you want me to call in? Would you want me to be more specific? I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're asking there, Lola. Yeah, this is your deepest longing, but it's also not, because I'm not sure. You long for this and you kind of don't, just like you say, because the person actually, what it longs for is constant pleasure. Oh, no, it's okay, unless you want to call in, Lola. So the person is longing for pleasure. That's what it wants. Pleasure, 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 pleasure. And it does want this, but it also doesn't. Just like you said, because it's terrified of this. Really terrified. But yeah, that's all I have to say, so call in if you want more conversation on it. Oleg. Lisa, do you know non-duality teachers in Ukraine? No, I don't, Oleg. Hey, Thomas. Yeah, you're welcome to ask the question or call in if you want. Hi, Sean. Hi, Lisa. I can't believe you explained exactly what's happening to me. So basically, there's no point listening to non-dual stuff. Did I say that? I think I didn't say that. What is the recognition then? Just so I know, to satisfy my mind. I didn't say there's no point listening to non-dual stuff. Like, you're assuming that you have the choice to listen or not. It's a happening. And I think that non-dual stuff can be relaxing for the person. Like, it appears like it's your choice, but it's not. You couldn't have chosen anything else than to listen, and now your mind is like, okay, I'm not going to get it there, screw it, off with you, non-duality. I seem to be suffering so much and very identified to my character. I have lots of agitation in the body. I heard on Sand conference we are suffering because awakening is happening. After listening to you, it feels like a scam, or very confused. That's the person I was listening to, Margarita Shakti. Oh yeah, Margarita. She was saying something different to you, I think. She said it's the other way around. Oh, it's okay. Maybe I've got something mixed up. Having a bad day. Love your advice, though. Yeah. Somebody keeps trying to call me and then turn off. It's a bit confusing. Hi, Linda. Hello, Lisa. Last week, there was this experience where my resistance to everything went away. This painful self-consciousness was gone. It was so relaxing. However, to me, it was more positive than negative until resistance came back. So I don't really understand what you mean with life is 50% positive and 50% negative. How would it look like if everyone was enlightened? I would assume that people wouldn't be rude to each other to take things so personally. If you don't take things personally, how do they still hurt? Isn't it that for things to hurt you, you have to believe them? I dislike this perfect human thing too. It's in the form that some are better than others. But if we become aware that we are the same, I would think we would treat each other that way, with kindness. Yeah, you got to get over the goodness and the badness, Linda. Humans will treat each other the way they treat each other, and then you've just got to think to yourself, why are you concerned about it now? More than likely they'll be better, but they're still going to have conditioning. You're still, like with Khaleesi, like she walks around and she wants to be the boss dog. You're still going to have people wanting to be the boss human. And when you have these awakening experiences, they come with lots of bliss in the body, because your whole life you've been identified, not your whole life, but most of it you've been identified. So when there's a stripping away of that, lots of bliss in the body, and then your mind is like, and makes all these conclusions that it's really blissful and you have no reactions. Reactions are really necessary, and what happens if there is like, a big tsunami or big global warming, like everyone's enlightened and then there's big global warming. How would you feel about not having food or letting your kids starve to death? Would you fight for food? Would you go and kill animals to eat? I suspect that people won't do things evilly, so they won't do things to be really nasty to each other, to get revenge, but they might get angry in the moment. For sure, I get angry in the moment, and I see it as past karmas, and there can be an improvement on that. I also sometimes see it as really important as well to get angry at people, because then it makes me put up my boundaries and say, no, out. As soon as you put yourself public on the internet, you have to have very thick skin and lots of boundaries. And when you also have this shift, it can come with lots of bliss. And then you can get into all types of ridiculous situations for not having established good enough boundaries. And I find often that my best way to establish boundaries is when I begin to feel angry, when there's an anger that comes up towards someone. It's not necessarily logical or rational. It's just a no. Like in Chinese medicine, they say that anger is a positive, not all the time, but can be a positive emotion. But also you can judge that however you want. You can also see it as that I'm not enlightened enough, or that there's identification here or there, or seeking, whatever you want to think about it. I don't tend to interpret these sorts of things as negative. The biggest difficulty we have, including myself, my personality struggles sometimes with this idea of good and bad as well, especially being an empath. But it's all an idea, because all badness that you see is inside your brain. And on the ultimate level, there is no good and bad. When you really see this life without any identification, it's totally indifferent. It's not good and bad. So good and bad is only interpreted through the human lens, but that's how we're interpreting. We can say we like the sunset and we don't like the rotting, diseased, dead body that smells. But it's an interpretation. So on the ultimate level, it's free. It has none. But everything that you see that's good and bad, like everybody's anger tantrum or feistiness or difficulty or things you don't like about people, is all happening inside of your brain, because your brain is interpreting it. Consciousness is indifferent. Consciousness doesn't care if that person's getting angry or not. It's only on the human level, fitting in with the human dynamics and structures, which are really limited and really bonkers and really crazy, like all the ideas we have about how we have to be. Why not feistiness and fighting together? Not fighting like wars, but why not having an argument now and then? Why not arguing about which way the sofa goes or which way the sofa looks better? Only because it makes you feel pain and you don't want it, and you're like, no, we must get rid of all badness. This idea of perfection is simply an idea, and when you have these awakening experiences, that is such a big illusion that you're always going to be in bliss. The bliss comes from the ecstasy that runs through the body, of the relaxation of it. And then it's all the other feelings are totally exterminated from just this bliss. You're like, and then a big truck comes and runs you over. You're like, oh, I forgot I was standing in the middle of the road when all this bliss came. Just went a mile a dozen. Can't remember that saying now. Hello, Wesley. Haha, that. I may have reached my comment quota for today. I'm exploring self-inquiry currently, and it is powerful for clarifying and coming back to my senses, so to speak. I'm curious, how do you respond to Ramanna's question, who am I? I realize the answer is beyond speech. Nonetheless, I'd like to hear your response, if you are moved. It's simply just a question, who am I? And it's all happening in the thought world, because who is asking the question, who is investigating it? But it seems to have been helpful for people and relaxes the personality structure. But any questioning that's happening is all happening in the personal world. I'm just going to take this call because they keep calling. Hello.
Hello,
Hey.
Liz. Hi, I'm just looking at YouTube. YouTube is a little bit delayed here, I can
Yeah,
see.
it's a little delayed, you're right, yeah. It's hard to tell when I take a breather, right?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I met you in Sweden in the Ängsbacka festival last summer.
Oh, nice.
And you said there, you mentioned at one big transformation type when you had a car accident on the highway, a big truck drove over your car.
Yeah.
And then in your homepage, there is mention when you was eating fried banana with vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
There was something, I don't know. So obviously there was two transformation in your life. You mentioned how
No,
you
there
may
was
have
many. The barley one was the biggest one, though, the eating the banana fritters. The car accident was a smaller one.
Okay.
But also, I don't know if I mentioned that car one in the talk, but on the internet, there's loads of weird stuff. Once I wrote this joke biography, and then people used it like it was a joke. Like I wrote about like this girl that had a enlightenment experience, like I was just making fun, and then people took it seriously, and now it's on there. So so there's lots of different stuff on the internet. Like I think you can apply to have things taken down, but I can't be bothered.
Okay. My questions comes from all your awakening happenings, we can call it.
Yeah.
One teacher said that for some reason the consciousness decides to be conscious about itself,
Yeah.
and that is awakening. One other teacher say it's a recognition. You recognize something, and use that. We can say that point where the consciousness decides to be conscious about oneself, conscious, but decides to be conscious about the consciousness.
Yeah.
I want to try, I mean, probably I cannot understand, but can you say something about that happening when the consciousness decides to be conscious about itself?
Yeah. I mean, like everyone speaks about it in different ways because there is no way to speak about it. And I've most probably spoken all of those things that you've just said now because it's not like a fixed thing, this, and you could express it in so many different ways. But consciousness actually doesn't decide to recognize itself. It just does it. Like consciousness doesn't have free will like we imagine that. Like we personify consciousness and we make it human and we think it's got a human brain and it chooses like we imagine. But it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't choose to wake up to itself. It just kind of creates that, just like it created everything else. And we don't really know how that's working or why that's working, or it's beyond anything that we can interpret. We know that there is this energy in life that is creating everything, and we can never see it in this life. We can never step out of this dream and look and see what consciousness is, or look and see what the creator is. It's this intelligence that's beyond our comprehension of intelligence. I mean, you don't even, calling it intelligence maybe is like simplifying it way too much. And we never can look at what it is and why it's doing things. The feeling of it, so consciousness feels completely indifferent to everything in life. Like difference and care and motivation all comes in the human world. Whereas the creator feels like it's just experiencing and it's creating, and it's way beyond anything we can possibly think of. Like, I can't say that it's a human sitting there creating and thinking about it or not, or like it's beyond anything in this world. It's not like choice or no choice to create. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, yes.
Yeah. Why is that important for you? Like, where's the motivation for that question coming from?
Yeah, of course, when I asked you, probably there was something in me could find a trick, how to trick the consciousness to decide to be conscious about itself.
Yeah. Do you know what the funny thing is you don't really want that on the human level. What you want on the human level is just to have a more peaceful life.
Ah, yes.
And to be more happy. You don't actually want that, because it's absolute destruction of the person. So to disappear into pure consciousness, or to your pure essence, is total loss of the person. And that's not actually what you want. In some ways you could say you want it, like there's a craving for oneness deep inside of you somewhere, like a craving to go home and just to be at home. But really also that personality that thinks that it wants to get to consciousness is actually conning you, because it's telling this story, but it's just like a new idea, like the idea of money or the idea of anything in this life. Like, it's an idea, and you hope by doing that and by manifesting that you'll become more peaceful. And that's it's seeing that for what it is. It's seeing that these thoughts and feelings come up and they con you. And there's nothing wrong with that. And who are they even conning? Because the idea that there's even somewhere that could be conned, it's just a con is happening. And just recognizing it for what it is, and that settles down the person. Like when it's seen, the games, and when they're felt, so you feel it in the body as well, that wants to get to something else, that longing, like it settles them down, and the person becomes more relaxed and will become more happy. Like, it's all these lies and illusion that actually make you unhappy. Like this is the biggest one, is an illusion that all humans are caught in, is the idea that time will equal freedom.
I had some kind of transformation, awakening, a little one for a few years ago, and the only thing that happened, something deep inside me relaxed, a very deep level. The person there inside searching for enlightenment, the energy to drive me to enlightenment relaxed. That's what I can say. I didn't get any bliss like you mentioned here before. You get bliss and all that. I only get relaxation on a very, very deep level. And but there is definitely more left of me who is the driving energy to want enlightenment. There is so. But when that happened a few years ago, I got a hope. Oh, now it will be an accelerated process of deeper, and less identification of my mind and body and ego, all that. But it has not gone like I was hoping. It's still, I'm still happy for that transformation, but still the desire is to go faster, and the question is why have not much more happened since these few years, and so that's why I ask you. You obviously have several one of the transformation or recognition, awakenings. So, and of course, I guess for you, every one of them happened as a surprise for you. I didn't think you was expecting it to happen or preparing it to happen.
Well, I was a big seeker, throughout my 20s. I was completely fixated on it. And I would just say, like, just recognize that voice and just recognize that story that's wanting to get to this place and wanting bigger transformation, and just notice it. And it's, even though it's a part of your mind that's noticing it, so it's two fractions of a mind, like one is doing it and then another part is noticing it. It just relaxes that noticing relaxes that habit, because what happens sometimes is that these thoughts and feelings come up and then they take us as truth. They feel truth. It feels true that you haven't progressed or that you need to progress more, and we believe and we get totally involved in that belief system.
Yes, that it has been a few times after that I was in a satsang and there was a relaxation. I could see this energy in my once enlightenment and that relaxed. So it has. So there is still a little bit hope in me, but the big one, I'm waiting for the big one.
Yeah. Where are you from?
I'm from Sweden.
Are you from Sweden? Oh yes, you said, yeah, nice.
Yeah, anyway, I thank you. I got some answers. So it's only for me to observe the energy, the desire to go for enlightenment and see it's there. And by the time, I guess there will be a new transformation, awakening, and it will relax more and more and more, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at some point it will change. That's a guaranteed for life.
Oh. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, nice. Thank you very much for calling. Bye. Wow. Okay. Well, we're reaching 8 o'clock now. I'll just take. I'm German speaking Swiss, but I like French a lot. No, we didn't meet yet, but I think it would be a great experience. If you make a retreat or something in Switzerland, let me know. Hi, Dominique. Yeah, there's lots of people that I haven't replied to. But there is a natural intelligence moving through everything, and this intelligence doesn't make serial killer birds or dogs. It only happens to humans. There may not be good or bad, but there is ignorance and intelligence, not the intelligence of accumulated knowledge. I'm sorry for sending this message. I feel like it wasn't needed at all. Soz. That's okay. But I think you'll find there are, like if you go and see dogs in Thailand, like they're really fierce. And, if another dog crosses into its boundary, they kill each other. Like when I was there, I often saw dogs kill each other in fights and stuff. I think you're right. I think serial killer, I don't know, actually. I think that, but the thing is that they say that a sociopath is an area of the brain not working, so it's like lack of empathy. So it's like a psychopath is made and a narcissist is made to an extent. It's also biology as well. But they say that that a sociopath is biology, so there's an area in your brain that doesn't work. And they've even done experiments and research on like brain injuries causing that. And I've also watched research on brain injuries creating lots of like very disturbful, hateful behavior. And it could be that if they have awakening, that passes and that stops, but I don't know. Like if your brain is wired that way, it's completely impersonal. But so those are really extreme things that are conditioned. So normally, like a psychopath, it comes from like deep hatred of the mother normally. And there's normally like lots of like steps to becoming a psychopath. So that maybe stops. But, we still will have this urge to survive and to have our own things, and there will still be disagreements. Like this idea and this longing for peace in humanity. Like look to other animals don't live peacefully together. Some do. But I mean, like magpies are just horrible to each other sometimes. I remember watching a flock of magpies when I lived in Australia just suddenly go for one magpie, and they just kept pecking at it until it died. So first of all, they were chasing it through the sky, pecking at it. And then eventually it fell to the floor, and then they all pecked it to death. I mean, it's terrible. It's often the reason that we're so desperate for this peace in humanity is because of our own fear of badness, and that keeps us in this like running after pleasure and running away from pain. And you've got to remember that the psychopath, the sociopath, and all these bad things that you're seeing outside of you are actually inside of you, and they're part of your brain. Like everything you experience is inside your own brain. So all this allocating blame and putting blame here or putting blame there or saying it'll be like this or like that, it's all happening inside of you. But thanks for the question. It's something that still comes up in my personality too, being an empath, and people can be such assholes sometimes. It's just disgusting. They really can be assholes. But I'm sure I can also be an asshole as well. I'm an asshole though. Others are assholes, the American way, and I'm an English asshole. Okay, goodbye. I am now leaving. I forgot to do advertisements at the beginning. I've just put up a retreat on my website if you're interested. It's now open for booking. So you can see that's in the south of Spain, the 23rd to the 30th of May. Thank you guys. I shall see you again on Wednesday at 6 p.m. French time. Au revoir. Bonne soirée.